Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes. We are with Liberty Lass, our level 9 brute, and we are currently doing the Superadine ring. So I do want to start by talking about a couple of things. Let's get our next mission queued up. We have to fight Chernobog. This is the finale. Okay, I've got some good inspirations here, but I think we're going to want to replace the endurance with some defense. So that's the purple pill, as they call it, the luck. And we'll just grab him from Shauna. I think she'll talk to me while... Yeah. So just go to the store and you can purchase inspirations from here. Boom, boom. I don't think we need a break free. I don't think they do Mez. And we're going to just head over and do the final mission. Try to use no inspirations until we fight Chernobog, who is pretty tough. I think he's an elite boss. Might be wrong about that. I think so. We should be okay with willpower and with our resistance toggle. We should be all right. But he does do some energy, like negative energy, and we only have 5% resistance to that. So that's why the defense will help us with being able to dodge it. So I want to talk about a couple of things. I do want to mention that I've been reading, a few people have made some comments on my earlier videos, and I replied to them, but I also want to sort of say it here. Several people who are just starting their City of Heroes journey, I guess, found my videos and watched them, and I guess are hoping to use them for, guidance. I'm not intentionally doing a tutorial here. It's that's something I did when this game first came back on the private servers in 2019, and I've already done that extensively, and I really didn't plan to do a tutorial. But if there are things that you don't understand or you want me to comment about or you want to ask questions, please feel free to ask those. Well, who's shooting me? Please feel free to ask those questions, and I will answer them as best I can. Oh, somebody was up. I bet she was on top of one of the boxes. Now I'm going to go after her first because she's a yellow con. She's going to do a lot of damage to me if I don't take her out. So, yeah, if you have questions about things like why did you do X, you should be aware that sometimes it's just what I like to do, and there's no particular reason to do it or benefit to doing it. I tend to have my own sort of stylized way of playing City of Heroes. The other thing I do want to mention is that I do not play City of Heroes the way the vast majority of people who are veterans of the game and have been playing it for years play it on the live servers now. A lot of people don't do these regular missions. They go into something called the Mission Architect, which I think we will get a notification about at around 10th level. And when they do that, they can basically custom design their own missions, or they can play other people's missions. And there are actually missions that are on the Architect that are basically designed for speed leveling. And a lot of people go in and they speed level and get to level 50 in the Architect, and then they feel like now the game is ready to begin, and they're going to play all the sort of high-level raid type content, the whatever passes for raiding in COH, which is not really raiding, it's the Incarnate Trials. So a lot of people are only in it to go to the Incarnate Trials, to use the Incarnate Trials to get these Incarnate abilities leveled up and so on. You can get some of it from regular gameplay above level 50, and I have done that with my Super Reflex Scrapper Silver Phoenix, although that's not in any of the videos because it was around that time that Homecoming for a while banned the recording of videos and posting a recorded video on their servers. I mentioned that back in episode 0 of this playlist. And so yeah, you can get some of the Incarnate stuff without doing the Incarnate Trials, but the really quote-unquote good gear, or whatever you want to call it, requires doing the Incarnate Trials. And I haven't done that. That's like, you need a large team for that. I would never record that because I don't want to be distracted with recording while I'm actually playing with a group of people and they're relying on me to play my character properly, which you really don't do when you're talking. I mean, I can do this stuff easily enough, but anything that's really hard to do, I wouldn't be able to do and be successful while I'm recording. Is because 50% of your brain is on what you're talking about rather than the playing. So what you have to realize is that a lot of people will not do these missions because they're slow, right? It takes a lot longer to level up. As fast as this seems to be going, it takes a lot longer to level up, going from like level 1 to 50 in regular missions and street sweeping and all the other stuff that you do to play the game the way it was meant to be played, than it is if you just go into an architect mission that was designed for speed leveling, and the maps and the villains that you're fighting and stuff are purposely meant to help you whip through leveling. As a matter of fact, if you want to do this the sort of pro way, and this is what one of the leader of my supergroup people would ask her, like, how do you do this, right? Because the enhancements that we've been finding, the dual origin, single origin enhancements, you can buy those from the generic shops that are littered around the city in the various zones, and they might cost 20 or 30,000 per enhancement. But to get the really good stuff, you have to get recipes. We don't have any recipes yet, but here we have one, knockback, right? This is an invention. This improves knockback. It's sort of just a generic one, and you have to have some loot. We have one of the pieces of loot. We have 2 brasses, but you also need an ancient artifact and a clockwork winder in order to make it. And so some of these recipes have loot items, salvage items that are very rare and hard to find. They might cost hundreds of thousands just to buy one of the items that's going to help you make the recipe. And if you want to buy the recipe, that might cost millions or tens of millions. So to get your character specced out at level 50 with all of these invention recipes that add extra buffs to your character, you'll see that when we get the opportunity to do those in a few levels. In order to do that and spec your character out properly, right, a character like this, if you play your cards right and you get the right inventions and the right salvage and everything, you could be sitting there at 75% resistance, 75% defense, massive bonuses to hit and damage, and you're just plowing through +4, +5 enemies, right? In order to do that, you have to play the marketplace. I can show that to you guys when we get out of this mission. Somebody remind me. Not that any of you are able to do that, but yeah, you go to the marketplace where people who have gotten the salvage and gotten the recipes are selling it to each other. Right? It's in like an auction house. It's called Wentworth's. And when you do that, you have to pay the prices of whatever the going rate is on the server. And because so many people have so much influence, so much money, as it were, these things are very expensive. And I can't remember the exact number, but what she said is you need like 8 billion influence in order to buy everything you need for the spec that she was like showing how to do it. So how do you get 8 billion influence? Well, what you do is you create a specific type of character. I believe it was a Spines Fire Brute. You spec it a certain way. It costs like 100 million to spec it that way, and then you use it to mine the architect to get your 8 billion, and it'll happen quote unquote quickly. That's the way the pro City of Heroes players play. They make up a character only for farming. They farm like crazy. And then, where is he? Here he is. And he is an elite boss. They farm like crazy, and then they use that character to get enough influence to send the influence to their real character that they're going to play. They level that one in the Archetype to level 50, and then they use that one to go on the Incarnate Trials and stuff like that with the 8 billion influence worth of recipes and salvage and everything else. And we got a merit reward, and you can use those to do stuff. So the bad guys are leaving, and we have defeated Chernabog, and we haven't leveled up, but we've completed the story arc. So So yeah, I don't play City of Heroes that way. I know in principle how to do it. It would not be even a little bit fun for me. I'm not interested in farming. I don't make up characters for the purpose of farming. I like to play for fun. My level 50 character that has 171 million influence, I logged into her. This Silver Phoenix, my very first character on Homecoming. And I was going to do stuff, and I looked at the context and everything. I'm like, this is all just grinding. No. I might play her at some point later, but no, I'd rather just like play through story arcs and missions, and I actually like the lower level content, like below level 40, a lot better than the high level content. I just I'm not interested in doing that kind of grinding, and I don't care what veteran level I get to above level 50. It's just, I mean, there are people who use this for bragging rights, veteran level 100, veteran level 1000, whatever. I don't care, right? I'm playing this for fun. I'm not playing it to raise the stats. So you're not going to see me play that way. And if you want to get into that sort of pro City of Heroes mode where you're building a farming character, ramping that character up to level 50 super fast, putting a half a billion influence worth of stuff on that character to make it farm faster, and then using it to farm 8 billion influence, I'm not the guy, and I won't be showing you how to do that. And we leveled up. You get a bunch of story arc XP, as you can see down here, 350 XP and 150 influence. And we're not going to use Eagle Eye. Eagle Eye, these are the newer missions, and I don't like those. But we did level up. We're at level 10 now. And so we can get our next power, which I think is going to be our defense power. The auto power. I can't remember the name of it. And one thing you'll find for me when I'm playing a character that has a defense secondary is I absolutely love the auto powers because they don't cost endurance. However, there is one possible exception to this. If the Mez defense, yes. So this protects, this is, okay, we're getting this. This is, I know it's a toggle and it's going to drain endurance, but I want this one because it prevents confusion, it prevents fear, it prevents hold, it prevents immobilize, stun, sleep, and knockback, and knockdown. So yeah, we're getting that. As much as I want the auto power, I always get Mez defense the second I can. And if I ever were only able to run one toggle, I would run Indomitable Will. It also gives us a little bit of Sonic defense. Look at our hold protection. My goodness, 25. That's insane. Normally it's only a 6 to start with, or something. I don't know. That's a little high, but anyway, that's good. So defense against Mez really is protection, right? Because in City of Heroes, the word defense means dodge, right? 7.5% increased chance of them to miss me, right? So if their base to hit is 50, they'll only have 42.5% to hit me with psionic attacks because I have defense against that now. The nice thing about willpower is it does protect you against psionics. It's one of the only, I think it's the only defense set in the game. Every other defense set, they call it the hole in the defense. It's the one thing that most defenses are vulnerable to is psionics, which is why the psionic stalker and the psionic sentinel and anything does psionic attack tends to be very powerful. Psionic stalkers are super popular because you can absolutely destroy stuff. They have no defense or resistance to you because almost nothing in the game has willpower among the NPCs. There are a few bosses, but almost no minions, almost no lieutenants have willpower because it wasn't when the game originally launched. It wasn't in. So, so yeah. Let's go ahead and sell the enhancements that we have because we don't need these. We're going to actually sell this recipe because it's generic and level 10. And now that we are 10th level, not sure if we're going to get some other contacts. Yeah, here we go. So we have Athena Curry. She's a level 10 contact. And Vic will introduce us to Lorenzo da Costa. He is another, like he's in Skyway City, and Athena is in Steel Canyon. So let's go over here to the auction house so I can show you what I was talking about. So this is Wentworth's. I believe, let me check this. I believe if you type /AH, it will also work. It does. All right, but you can come into Wentworth's and just talk to one of these guys, and you can see that there are a bunch of things that you can purchase. So what I'm talking about here are the recipes. And let's just take a look at some of these recipes as an example. So let's take a look at melee damage. So these all have different names that are sort of supposed to be thematic, like Mako's Bite. Mako is a shark villain. Kinetic Combat, Pounding Slugfest, Smashing Haymaker, Touch of Death, right? So Touch of Death is going to do negative energy. There are 6 different possible recipes for these special enhancements. Each of them does something different. So let's just take a look at this one. This is a level 40 recipe. That's probably the maximum level of it. And let's take a look at what it does. This is a damage, endurance, recharge recipe. And if you slot this into one of your slots, it will increase the damage of the power by 19%, reduce its recharge time, make it faster by 19%, and reduce its endurance cost by 19%. But then if you look at the bottom where it says set bonus, right? So it tells you what you need to make it. You need alchemical silver, iron, a data drive, and a soul trapped gem, right? And you need 104,000 influence to create it. That's what it takes to craft it, right? Then if you look down at the bottom where it says set bonus, if you have 2 of these, 2 enhancements from the set, they gave you the same enhancement, they have to be different ones. So if you have like this one and this one, if you have 2 different ones slotted in the same power, in addition to all the other bonuses they give you up at the top here, right where it says 19%, down at the bottom it'll say if you have 2 of them, it'll increase your energy and negative energy resistance by 1.5% and your mez resistance by 2.5%. If you slot a third one in, it increases your maximum health permanently. You add 1.5%. Then you can increase your damage to all your powers by 2.5%. If you have 4 of them slotted in, with 5 slotted in, you get smashing and lethal resistance. And with 6 slotted in, you increase your melee defense. That's the dodging ability. And your lethal and smashing defense. That's this stuff up here that we don't have any yet, right? So one of the things that people will do is they'll look at the set, they'll see what it gives them, and then they try to get sets that stack the things they want. So there are different sets that do different things, and you could combine sets so that you have like 5 different sets that give you 3.5% melee defense, and that's 15% when you add it all up. And so that's kind of what you do when you get these sets. So you have to purchase the recipes unless you get lucky enough to get a drop. So if we click on this, you can see that this particular recipe has sold in the last few days between the 10th and the 14th of January. Today's the 17th or something. For between 600,000 and 2 million influence. And you bid on it, and if you bid high enough, right, there are 18 for sale, there are 170 bidding. So it's a bidding war. And you better bid high because people will pay lots for this, and the guys selling it know it, right? So let's take a look now. We needed alchemical silver, iron, data drive, and a soul trapped gem. So let's take a look at the salvage, right? The invention salvage. Alchemical silver sells for 500, so that's cheap. What was it? Data drive. So there are tons of them for sale. I'm not sure why with 10 million of them for sale, it's still selling for 30,000. I guess people, so here's what's happening. People are charging way too much for it, and the people bidding aren't willing to pay that much. So these sell for 30,000. Now, if we want to construct this, we'd have to pay 30,000 or so for one of these, and 500 for the alchemical silver, and then the iron is another 500. So that's about 31,000. And then the, what was it called? The soul trap gem. And there you go. It's orange loot. That's going to cost you $500,000. So you just spent almost 500,000 just to get the materials you need to build it, and then it was like another 104,000 to actually construct it once you have the recipe. So just to buy the thing was what, $1 million, $2 million, say $1 million, and then about $500,000 to construct it once you have all the salvage, right? So just a single one of those 6 recipes to turn into enhancements to put in your powers would cost you on the order of about 3 million, and there are 6. So it would cost about 18 million influence just to fill up a single 6-slotted melee power, and you're going to have 9 of those. You see how you're looking at a couple 100 million right there? And then the defense powers is another couple of 100 million. And then your inherent powers might be another couple 100 million. So you're looking at a half a billion just to put these recipes into your character. And these aren't even the uber ones, right? The ones that are truly uber and really popular, you might be paying 10, 20, 30 million just for a single recipe, and maybe another 10 million for the orange salvage that makes that recipe. And in some cases, there may be very few for sale, and you might just have to wait and wait and wait. So that's kind of how the auction house works. This is why I mostly ignore the auction house until I get at least into the 30s, and often further than that. So there's one other kind of enhancement. These are called the archetype origin enhancements, the ones that are specific, like just to a brute or just to a scrapper, and there are a couple of offensive ones for the brutes. I always get those. Those are purchased with reward merits, I believe. We'll have to take a look at those when the time comes, but there's no point to looking at them until we're much higher level. There used to be vendors here in Wentworth's, but it might be that we got to go to one of the higher level zones to see that. Those you just need to purchase with reward merits and stuff, and maybe influence, and so it's not as bad. And it's not recipes and stuff. You just can get them. I think you get the recipe, but they're not as horrible to try and get. So let's see how much time has elapsed. 22 minutes. So we do have time to head to the new zone and check Athena Curry. That's our next contact. She's right near the train station, if I remember right. So yeah, that's how recipes work, and that's why it can cost half a billion influence to fully spec out a character. Now, what I end up doing is I just find a set, any old set that goes to level 40 or 50 and has some stuff in it that I want and isn't expensive. I get the ones that are not the super ones, super great ones, but they're just decent. And they are fine to use if you're not trying to like really uber max. So again, my videos are not going to help you learn how to uber max because I'm not going to bother to do that. It's just not enjoyable to me. Rescue scientists from the clockwork. But actually, before we do this, can we... I'm not sure if we can yet do the inventions, because since we're talking about it, let's go ahead and try to see if we can. I don't know if you can at 10th level or if you got to be a little higher. I think 10th level is high enough. So when you get to this point, it is well worth heading over to the university and having a talk with the admissions officer and enrolling in classes, because they'll teach you how inventions work. So if you're new to the game, this is actually a really good tutorial. I'm going to whip through it pretty quickly, but you should read all the text if you're new to the game while you're playing it. Don't try to read my text. And let's see, can we... Yes. So this is the invention tutorial, right? And you say, okay, I want to learn about the invention tutorial. So, okay, go take a look at the program of classes, right? Salvage, recipes, workbenches, invention enhancements, and a wrap-up. So that's what you're going to do. So you go back to him, and he says, okay, be introduced to a new contact, and you go to Professor Borum. So then you go over here to the library, right? Now I'm going to do this fairly quickly, but if you're new to the game, I urge you to read everything, because it will explain how this all works. So he explains as a class about salvage. He talks about the different rarities of salvage. The rarities are common, uncommon, and rare, and they have different colors. And so that's what he's asking you to do. And then you come over here and you look at the book. And again, it tells you about the different types of salvage. Then you come back to him. and he is going to ask you to go retrieve some supplies. So now you have a quick mission where you're going to go retrieve some supplies, and then you come back to him. Right, and I think you get a salvage drop in here. So my guess is what this is programmed to do is if you've never gotten a salvage drop before, it will. I think it would automatically salvage drop for you so that you can get some salvage into your salvage. But we've got some already, and that's because the level at which salvage starts dropping has been progressively lowered since they put salvage into the game. So historically, this did not exist in City of Heroes, and what happened? This is literally so stupid because it wasn't a design consideration for the actual game. What happened is Statesman, Jack Emmert, who was the head developer, he got hooked on World of Warcraft. And one of the things he got really hooked on was the auction house. He thought it was really cool. It was like a mini game within a game. It kept people really engaged and interested in World of Warcraft. And so he decided he wanted to put an auction house in City of Heroes. And then they had to figure out how are we going to do it. And this is how they did it, was with the salvage and all of that. And I, never really liked it. I always wish they could have done something different with enhancements. And it's just so against genre to have superheroes selling their superpowers to each other, which is basically what you're doing, and bidding on their superpowers and stuff. It's just so absurd. I absolutely detest it. But unfortunately, it's just the way the game works, so you kind of have to live with it. I mostly ignore it from an in-character perspective, right? From an in-character perspective, my character's just learning to use her powers better. She's not an inventor. So this is all very out of character. So we are going to arrest these guys. We don't leave people hanging around the dorms to hurt. We don't leave armed guys hanging around the dorms to hurt students just because we completed the mission. By the way, notice our base 2 hit is down to 82%. And that's our base because we don't have any enhancements or other things running to buff us yet. So we're 10th level, and it's slowly gone from, what was it, around 90% down to 82. And it'll be down to 75 by like 15th level, I think. So we've completed that mission, and now we're going to head over to talk to our little contact here, and they'll give us a little bit more information on salvage and recipes and that sort of stuff. So let's head on in. And our new contact is Professor Taylor, who's over here. And we will ask him, and now he's talking about recipes, and he's talking about the different types of recipes. So there are a couple of basic types. The one they're going to show us is going to be the Invention. So that white are common, yellow are uncommon, orange is rare, and purple is ultra rare. So that's what people want, are the purple recipes, right? Those are the ones that are super, super expensive on the auction house. Whoops, we got to talk to this guy first. I always get ahead of myself at least once on these missions. Now we need to go upstairs and talk to Dr. Chandler, I think, who is going to teach us how to actually craft recipes. So, recipes can build enhancements, costume parts, right? Or other types of salvage, you can convert them. And so we're going to accept our reward. We're going to take our level 10 accuracy enhancement. And this is a new recipe and some new salvage. So the recipe it gave us is this thing. It will be 11% buff. Right? This is basically a fancy training enhancement. So the nice thing about these invented recipes, whether they're trainers, which anybody can use for whatever they want, or whether they're these sets, these aren't sets, right? They just give you a buff. Whether they're set-based or whether they're just these, what I call invention trainers, this is what the training enhancements used to look like, the little plus in the middle. The nice thing about them is they never expire, right? So even if you're 50th level, this level 10 training enhancement, invention enhancement, will give you an 11% buff. Now, that's not enough to keep it, But it's pretty nice at this level, and we'll keep it around till at least 12th level. So, oh wait, we have to invent it. Where are we going? Upstairs. So these are the little invention stations, and there's all kinds of stuff that you can invent, but this is the one we actually have. So if you don't actually have the recipe, you can buy it and then create it if you have the right salvage for it. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to create the one we have, and now we're going to go in here, and we can take this one, and we're going to rip this out because it's expiring, and we're going to put that in there. And we'll rip this one out because it has expired. So now we will always have plus 11% to hit with this power until we take that enhancement out of there. So that at least gives you a little bit of a rundown on how these things work. I will talk about it more as we get to the point where I'm going to be starting to create some of these things. So one of the things we do have is, I'm pretty sure Silver Phoenix has tons and tons and tons of tons of salvage that she can share with us. So this is where they're talking about invention sets. Each set is made of a single power enhancement that, working together, give excellent bonuses. And then this is the training enhancers, dual origins, and single origins, which we've already talked about. And now we're going to go to the guidance counselor, who's going to tell us that we've completed our course of training and give us our bachelor's degree in enhancement making, as it were. A little ahead of ourselves. Liberty Lass is high school age. So then this is the pamphlet that explains how Wentworth's works, which I just showed you guys. And then back to him, and we have completed the story arc, and we got a badge. So let's take a look at badges. We have just a couple. We have a few. We've gotten to level 10. We've defeated the Clockworks and the Skulls, right? That's the Negotiator badge. I didn't even realize that so that mission was a badge. We defeated enough of these guys, I guess. Nebula Elites, I'm not sure. Protector of Innocence is level 10. We've earned 10 badges. We're an inventor because we've created enough inventions, I guess. Yeah, so we have quite a few. We got our first tip. Oh, and some of these are from the architect. Some of these are global, right? That they're given to you account wide. But we can take a look at exploration badges, right? We've gotten 4 of these. So these are just when you go to a certain location, you get the badge. So let me show you how that works. We've done it a little bit, but let's actually do it here because there is an exploration badge right nearby that I remember as quite memorable where it is. So we can just go and I'll show you that. And then we'll get ready to wrap things up. So there's an exploration badge right up here somewhere. There it is. So if we zoom in, right, you can see that thing, a little like hexagon or whatever, that is an exploration badge. They're really hard to find unless you know where they are. And there was a type of map called Vidiot maps. I think you can find them online. There's a way to like import them so that the Vidiot stuff actually overlays this map, and it shows where all the locations of the badges are. And if you saw me a couple times clicking on the little podiums that have history of the city on them, if you click on certain ones in different zones, it makes a story. And when you get like the one from Atlas Park and the one from Steel Canyon and the one from Kings Row and the one from Craze Folly or whatever, they all come together to a storyline, then you get a badge for it. And if we look at accolades, right? Some of these, if you do them all, earn the following badges: Top Dog, which is like exploration; Pupil, Spelunker. There's all different things you do to get these badges. When you earn them all, it'll give you a buff permanently. You might get like permanent 1% health or 1% endurance for your character for collecting all those particular badges. So that's another thing they borrowed from other games that didn't exist when the game launched, but people like collecting badges, and so they borrowed it from them. So we're gonna head up to one of the tallest buildings. Let's see which one's the tallest. That one. One of the things I always loved about City of Heroes was the three-dimensionality. They did it before anybody else, and they did complete three-dimensional. So cool. Absolutely love being way up like this and looking down at the city. They did such a nice job on the visuals of this game for 20 years ago, guys. 20 years ago. And it still looks decent. Unbelievable how beautiful this was when it first came out, and it was done by a really small dev team. I think we're going to stop there. Hopefully, I explained clearly how things like inventions and stuff works. Until next time, guys, I am Scrapperlock, and this has been City of Heroes on the Homecoming servers.